Steelers win 34-11. Wow, the Steelers get out of the fog with Rudolph. That's the last pun. That's the end of it. Mason Rudolph with the big stat line, 17 of 27 for 290, 2 touchdowns. It started with an 86-yard touchdown to George Pickens. It was really just a little quick slant that he took to the house. So the stats will look nice, but look, the Steelers played much better. Defense made a ton of big plays, and Jake Browning kind of regressed back into the first start of Jake Browning, which was, again, against the Steelers.
Yeah. Jake Browning has basically been an all-pro except against the Steelers where he's looked like Jake Browning. It's actually been fascinating. Like 2 games against Pittsburgh, he's looked like you can't start this guy. This was never going to work. And then every other game, he's looked amazing. This was Jake Browning coming back down to earth in terms of turnover-worthy plays and then those resulting in turnovers. I felt like he'd been riding that luck for a little bit the last couple of weeks. He'd been treading this very fine line between, was that terribly ill-advised and lucky or really good? You know, where you sort of float the ball in the general direction of a closing window, and if it makes it in time, you have to be kind of like, okay, fair enough. You got it there.
For the record, I had been mentally giving him credit for that.
Yeah.
Good anticipation, good ball location.
I kind of had as well, but there was this lingering feeling that those were a little lucky for a while, and maybe that was going to stop happening for a bit. And this game, it all swung back against him. He just put the ball in harm's way an absolute ton, got punished for it. The Steelers' defense, though, I think, is actually kind of the biggest story here because you look at who they were starting. I mean, they were down because of KZ's suspension now for the year. They were down 4 safeties. So both starters, both backups. So they were consequently starting Patrick Peterson, an old cornerback at safety, and who was the other guy they just brought in off the street? Eric Rowe. Who's like, he's a safety that's played in the NFL for a long time. Let's get him in.
Get him in there.
Right. So, and then the linebackers as well were another collection of people that, don't generally play a lot. Miles Jack, fresh off his retirement and the couch, is back in action playing. And somehow they stitched this thing together and it was working and working well. It's like, this shouldn't work. Like, it shouldn't be possible for this collection of personnel to play at a high level.
Isn't that the Mike Tomlin magic, though? I mean, isn't that the story? Look, I know they were in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, and it looked like they were about to blow the season. But, and we had predicted maybe the last couple of weeks they would get out of that because that's the magic of Mike Tomlin, right? Is when they're back against against the wall in Pittsburgh, or it looks like the personnel just doesn't match. They come out and play a game like this. That has been the reason why Mike Tomlin, I think, has never had that losing record, and now we got 2 more weeks here to save that thing.
He needs to lose them both in order to get the losing record.
Yeah. So, but it's fascinating because in Pittsburgh, people want Mike Tomlin out. They probably feel like there's a cap, there's a ceiling to Mike Tomlin. There were people in Pittsburgh media who were upset that George Pickens was even playing football this week after his lack of effort from a run blocking standpoint. And Pickens goes and has a monster game, almost 200 yards receiving, including that 86-yarder.
Yeah, so that becomes the other story, is fresh off the game. So it was funny because, Pickens had come out and said, the people complaining that I wasn't, my effort was bad or that I wasn't trying to get hurt, they don't play football. And then, number one, most of the people that are in the media that did play football.
We've played. I mean, we've gone through our resumes. We've played football.
Even independent of us.
Sorry.
There were former players that were like, no, you should be blocking. That's disgraceful effort. And Jalen Warren, the guy that didn't block for, came out during the week and said, I mean, I'd have blocked for him, that. And then you get a game like this where there's a play and Jalen Warren ends up absolutely decleating Jermaine Pratt on a block to literally prove his point. Yeah. Like, he canes the linebacker, takes him off his feet, buries him so that Calvin Austin can run in for a touchdown, literally putting on film his point that he would block for his teammate, and that way a touchdown lies. So you've got that happening, and then at the same time, George Pickens is like, well, here's the reason you don't, it doesn't matter that I didn't block because I can go for 195 and 2 touchdowns just by being a receiver. So everybody kind of proved their point in that game.
Yeah, a lot of points proven. So what does this mean going forward. I think a lot of today needs to be high level narrative stuff, right? High level discussion about the game, not necessarily narrative. High level discussion about the game and what it means going forward. Bengals and Steelers are both now 8-7. Steelers have the tiebreaker with the sweep over the Bengals. This the fun thing about these games at the end of the year is how high leverage they are. You're talking about 60-70% win playoff probability swings at times for certain teams. I mean, this was a massive game. Technically, the Steelers are out of the playoff picture right now because there are 4 teams at 8-7. They're the third of those 4 teams at 8-7. The Colts, who have the tiebreaker, and the Texans, who have the tiebreaker, head-to-head over the Steelers, are both 8-7, above the Steelers at the moment, but 4-1 in the division for Pittsburgh, and so their playoff hopes are still alive at the number 9 seed at the moment. And again, for Cincinnati, they have the Chiefs next week, and then they have the 10-win Browns in Week 18. So it's going to be a challenge for Cincinnati, who are now 0-5 in the division in the AFC North this year. That's going to probably come back to bite the Bengals. 0-5 in the division, 8-2 elsewhere.
Yeah, they timed their losses badly in terms of tiebreakers and those kinds of things.
Yeah.